Ralph M. Rivera, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
Absolutely.
Fantastic, sir. It is nice to actually see you and finally communicate. We have had quite a bit of a technical difficulties getting this thing going, but I'm glad
Yep.
to get this going. But Ralph, you just basically said, I'm going to see your one guitar and raise you four more. I feel a little inadequate today. Was that
And a
intentional?
puppet.
And a
Four
puppet.
guitars and a puppet.
Yes. I'm feeling a little slighted, a little outmanned, a little outgunned, but I will try and overcome it and get going with this. Um, but as we like to do, we like to kind of warm things up a little slowly, not jump right into the action and kind of warm me up to this thing. First of all, I have to ask, do you have an issue with alliteration? Because you toss the M in the middle there. It could be like Ralph Rivera.
No, actually, M is my middle name, and funny enough, there are other Ralph Riveras out there who are also in the marketing industry. And also, some time ago, I learned that there is a Ralph Rivera who is in the porn industry. So, in an attempt to distinguish myself from all of the above, I always keep the M in my name.
I was with you. Well, I guess I was about to kind of not accept that until you got to the porn industry. I guess that's kind of important. So you probably don't want to. You want to distance yourself as much as possible. All right. Well, I'll let that slide. My middle name is actually Ralph, so we have that in common. So
Excellent.
I don't know if you've taken any beatings for the name Ralph at all during the course of your life.
All my life.
I mean, even when I tell people my middle name, they're like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Well, I didn't do it to myself, but easy."
Right.
Um, but anyways, in all seriousness, why don't you go ahead and catch people up, let them know your story as it relates to fearlessly questioning being yourself.
Well, I'm a web developer. I run a marketing company with my wife and business partner. We've been running it since '99, but we worked together for about 10 years before that. So we have about 25 years of working in marketing and communications. And we have always been, we've always done what we do today. Technology has evolved, techniques have evolved. We're certainly not doing kiosks and CD-ROMs and laptop-based presentations as we were in the late '80s, but we still maintain that we are still a marketing company, despite what the technology is. So Facebook may come and go, Twitter may come and go, the internet may evolve into something else, but we will always be a marketing and communications company. So we're always challenging ourselves and I guess to use your word, fearlessly questioning what we do and why, because we never want to be in the game of doing something for the sake of a platform or a technique or a technology. We always want to do something in the best interest of the client, which was our founding core principle when we started, and we want that to be our core principle for the next 10 years, 20 years, 100 years if we live that long. Um, so that's what we do on a day-by-day basis. Is we ask ourselves, are we doing the best work that we can for our clients, or are we trying to wedge them into a Google mindset or a Facebook mindset or a WordPress mindset, which at the end of the day doesn't benefit the client, only benefits Google or Facebook or Twitter or whoever the platform is. So I guess that's my story.
Ralph, I don't want this to sound like I'm coming on you at all, but did you guys start the company like out of junior high? Because honestly, for being in business 25 years, you don't look a day over, I don't know, 35, man.
I'm 17.
Okay.
No, I'm going to be 44 this year. I
Wow.
did start early, yeah. I
Okay.
spent a split second of my career I was in the movie business, but that lasted very, very little.
What does a split second look like?
A couple months on the outside bubble, maybe a year.
All right, very interesting, Ralph. And again, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but of all the guests that have come onto the show, I feel like you probably don't know anything about me. That's okay. We'll maybe change that down the road, but I feel like we could actually really be friends in life. I've done a little stalking you leading up to this thing. It has been a quick preparation, as normally I have a little bit more time to get to know you. But from what I understand, we've got guitars in the background. Also, if I'm correct, video games as well on the table.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's a really solid foundation for a pretty strong relationship. And I think we should explore being like real life friends sometime.
Perfect.
All right, not to creep you out enough. We will actually
I,
get on with the real interview. I promise.
I'll give you my Xbox Live account and we'll hook up.
Oh, that is absolutely going to happen. So don't even try and pull out of that. All right, Ralph. Well, in all seriousness, let's go ahead and rip this thing off like a band-aid.
Sure.
First, fearless question to you, sir. are you actually as much of yourself as I think you are?
I don't know how to be anything else but me. And I don't know how that sounds. I'm I don't have the questions that you're gonna ask me, and that's my initial instinct is I don't know to be how to be anybody else but me. And I know that in our circle in marketing and communications, every social media expert slash guru slash rock star out there always says, be yourself, be yourself. But really what they mean is be the you that I want to hear. Say the things that appeal to me. And I'm not good at that. I'm not good at saying the things that are appealing. I'm good at saying what I think I can demonstrate. What I think the evidence shows. I've gotten into discussions slash debates slash fights with people because I contend that it's not my job to make my clients happy. It's my job to get them customers and referrals and leads. And there's a nuance there. It's not that I don't want them to be happy. It's just that that's not my job. Happiness is kind of this ethereal, subjective thing. Leads and business and the cash register ringing, those are not. So when I think about being myself, to go back to full circle, I don't know how to be anybody else but me. I guess that's the long way of saying that.
Well, the reason I ask is because I could, and again, feel free to slap me if I ever do see you in person. I could see a scenario in which people might perceive you as being awkward or annoying just because you share those things that most people don't. They round their edges. How do you deal with that, or how should people deal with that?
Well, my friend Ryan Hanley, he sent me a note.
Good friend of both of ours, good friend of the show.
Yep. He sent me an email, or maybe we had this conversation at some point, and he said, you haven't made it in podcasting until you've gotten your first bit of hate mail. So I was very, very excited towards either the end of 2014 or maybe like the beginning of 2015 when I was able to forward him my first bit of hate mail. I think that it can be abrasive to tell people what they already perceive as being conventional wisdom. And my position is always, and I've had this conversation with one of our colleagues, Ian Anderson Gray, I can be convinced. Anything that I think, if you can demonstrate to me why I'm wrong, I am not going to be so fixated on my own hubris that I'm not going to change my mind. But you have to demonstrate that to me. You have to prove it to me, and I'm willing to kind of come into your camp. And some people aren't willing to do that. Some people they take it more as faith, than really being skeptical about these ideas and concepts related to marketing. One of the topics that we always talk about is content curation, and I have very strong feelings about content curation, but in a very specific, targeted way. And a lot of people that just is very abrasive to because they make their living on content curation. So I'm not attacking them personally. I'm not making ad hominem attacks, but I am looking at things from the perspective of a business. I want businesses to be educated, and I want them to make good decisions, and I want them to grow their businesses and make money so that they can operate sustainably. And that chaffs people sometimes. But again, it's not my job to make them happy. It's my job to say what I think based on 2.5 decades worth of being in this industry.
Isn't it really just that act of asking for that demonstration that really sets the house on fire?
Maybe. I mean, a lot of things in my industry are taken on faith. I heard a couple weeks ago 2 different people say something to the effect of, well, on Twitter, there has to be a ratio. When you tweet out, you say something on Twitter, the ratio is that you then have to retweet 4 things. And I just find that completely absurd. Why? Who made that rule up? I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. Why does that principle exist? And no one can answer that question satisfactorily to me other than to say, well, that's how it is. And I don't accept that answer. So that rubs people the wrong way sometimes.
Ralph, it's coming from the best practice machine. You didn't know?
Right, exactly. Somebody just hit a button and the computer said retweet 4 times, and that's it. Done. It is now religion. And much like real religion, sometimes it's a delicate topic to touch. So I think that a lot of times I use faith a lot, the word faith, to talk about marketing and communications as it exists today, because a lot of times people do take concepts and techniques as faith without really being critical about why they're doing the things that they're doing. And we had Jason Weiser. I know you knew Jason Weiser as well, good friend of ours. We've had this conversation with him, and he says the best question you can ask is why. But as soon as you ask why, sometimes people get very offended, then they feel challenged in a negative way. I love debate. Nothing makes me happier than to have someone challenge me on an idea, and conversely, I like challenging people on their ideas, even if I agree with them. I think that that allows us both to either reinforce what we think we can demonstrate, or it'll change our minds. So I think that there's a lot of value in that, and the art of debate has been kind of lost. I'm getting off track here, but you get the idea.
There are no tracks. There never was any sort of tracks. But I want to get back to the debate thing. But first, I want to ask, what are we missing when we do leave out those things that lead to awkward and possibly annoying?
Well, I don't understand the question.
At least get that once a show, so don't worry. Um, so like the stuff that you kind of don't filter, where like you said, people tell you to be the version that they want to hear, but yet you leave all that extra stuff in. What are we missing when we take that stuff out?
Um, well, at the end of the day, people do business with people, and I think that there are some people who are so hyper polished in their presentation that it doesn't allow people to kind of connect with them. And engagement is a big thing in our industry. It's a big term. It's a real thing. And I think that more people will engage with you if they can see your humanity. We produce a podcast, and that podcast is really about marketing, but it's really in some ways not. Some ways it's about having a conversation about marketing, not just amongst myself and Carolyn, but with our audience as well. And we take the perspective sometimes that we're a business doing marketing, so we're letting people see how we do our marketing. As an illustration, we did an email campaign not too long ago, and we talked about it on air. We got the highest unsubscribe rate from that email campaign. It was awful, and we talked about why and what we learned from it, and people really related to that because they've done that. They've done their email campaigns where people just unsubscribe in mass, or they get horrible open rates, or they don't close any business. And I think that resonates with people to see, okay, well, not everything is going to be a hit, so let's talk about it realistically. And a lot of times people always talk about marketing like, well, you're going to do this magical blueprint and everything's just going to work, and you're going to make 6 figures magically because you're going to do these 10 steps that I'm telling you. That's a great story, but that's not how the real world works. And I think more and more as the internet is evolving, people are beginning, let me say it differently. I hope that people are becoming more and more skeptical in a good way about what makes sense versus what's a storyline designed to sell a product.
Yeah, and actually, let's do a little real-time role play here if we want to, on actually kind of giving an example. So you're talking about your podcast, and actually that's how I know you like video games, because you said three little words that I was I guess I didn't expect to hear, and that was IGN. Now we can take our feelings for IGN in the video game community one way or the other, and we can have a little conversation about where you get your video game news. But that's the thing. I hear it on the thing. You talking about Dragon Age, and I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. Like I don't expect to hear these things, but yet it immediately like speeds up everything else that I need to know. Like those two things. Even I haven't played Dragon Age yet because I cannot find enough time in my day to do it. But hate me for that as well. But talk about. I don't think there's a question anywhere in there, but I feel like you could probably say something.
Well, Carolyn and I, we have a unique. I don't know if this is fair for me to say, but we have a unique relationship in that we are.
I would say it's pretty fair to say from just my observation of you two.
Yeah, I mean, we started off as friends, and we continue to be friends. The wife-husband stuff seems to be kind of an add-on.
And everybody hates you for it right now that's listening to.
I guess. I mean, we really enjoy each other's company. We like working with each other. We spend every moment of every day together. As a matter of fact, she's sitting right there. Say hi, Carolyn.
She can crash the show. I'm fully up for that if she
Uh,
wants to.
you can join in if you like, Carolyn. The invitation has been made. And when we talk on air, I think that there are things that we talk about that really resonate with people from the standpoint of, as I said before, humanity. Here's a good illustration. Someone sent us, and it's not within my reach right now, but someone sent us a box of chocolates because we said that we like a particular brand of chocolate, woodblock chocolate from Oregon, I believe. Someone sent it to us. Carolyn mentioned that she liked Hello Kitty. She talks about Hello Kitty frequently. So one of our listeners actually handcrafted a Hello Kitty bag for Carolyn. And someone else, I talked about whiskey. Someone sent us a bottle of whiskey, one of our listeners. So we're connecting with them in a very, very human way. But here's the thing. I run a business. So it's nice that we have listeners. It's nice that we have a growing audience. It's nice that we can ask them to do things on our behalf. For example, when Ryan Hanley was releasing, before the release of the hardcover of his book, he was doing a promotion where he needed people to share the release date on their social profiles. Well, we asked our audience to do that, and he got like a 30% increase on the number of people that were going to share his content. That's pretty awesome. But at the end of the day, it's not just about those relationships. It's about those relationships plus business. And in the fourth quarter of 2014, we closed more business than we did in the first, second, and third quarters combined. And that's because people were talking to us as people. A company that does marketing, but still people, not some abstract concept behind layers and blueprints and shiny pictures and shiny things. And we were just people who run a marketing business and know what we're talking about. And I think that that's truly what being yourself is not worrying about the rules about who you should be, but just opening your mouth, turning on the microphone, and talking.
We're going to pause in the action. We're going to let you take a break, towel off a little bit, and it's your turn now to turn the tables on everybody else here and ask them a fearless question of your own, something you've always wanted to know the answer to, but were a little unsure of the response. What is that question?
Well, I would ask anyone who is a solopreneur, entrepreneur, business owner, business principal, if their strategy and tactics related to their marketing are based on skepticism and empirical evidence, or if it's based on faith. For example, you would never hire someone or hire an insurance broker and buy life insurance, hand off the check, and then not get any evidence that you've purchased life insurance. But many, many businesses will pay a web developer and think nothing of backups or their analytics or things that are incredibly important to their ongoing business, but they'll just take it on faith that all of that stuff is happening. So that would be my fearless question is, do you really feel confident enough about your marketing to turn around to your web developer or marketing company or PR company and ask them hard, difficult questions about what you own, what you have access to, what materials are available, and whether or not what they're doing is giving you a good return on your investment?
And Ralph, did you actually know that I'm in the insurance business? Did you know that before
I did not. No,
you did not.
well, I would, if you had asked me, I would have probably said insurance just because you and Ryan know each other.
Well, that's, I guess, guilty by association, huh? I
Right.
should probably look to maybe separate myself a little bit from him in that regard.
Well, he is a Buffalo Bills fan, so there's that.
I am it doesn't get any better over here, my friend. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, so
Ah,
it goes
wow.
from bad to worst,
Well,
bad to worse.
go
So,
Pats.
and Ralph, it's unfortunate we're not going to be able to continue with the interview anymore. I'm kidding, but
That's
uh,
okay.
I just honestly, I mean, really, at this point, we're just like the little kid in the class that he's been picked on so much. It's just like, and then I have to stand next to just I can't even talk about it. Let's just move on. So I think the question that you bring up is very, very interesting, and anybody that does want to chime in, we will go ahead and feel free to feature that throughout the course of the show. I guess I will turn it back around to you, Ralph. Is there anything that we should accept on faith?
No, nothing. That's the short of it. No. Why would you do that? Even when you have faith in something and you believe that something is working the way that it should, there's still tremendous value in questioning it anyway. We have our site, Web Search Social. We I know this is not like the best example, but every once in a while we go in and we submit a form to ourselves because, well, we know it's working, but we don't want to just take that on faith. We want to make sure that if someone's trying to contact us, that they're able to do that. We don't take it on faith. We don't take anything on faith.
Well, let me play devil's advocate, if I may,
Sure.
and let me say to you that okay, I understand that a little bit, and I most of the time would agree with you. But I feel there are very certain instances, and we did a show, Fearlessly Questioning Proof with Andy Crestodina, um, about it really, and I feel like there are certain ideas, there are certain concepts, there are certain things that only in your head that you're going to have kind of the conviction to kind of pursue regardless, and those are the things that are going to ultimately be the stuff that nobody's done before. Is that have you had an experience like that, or am I talking crazy? You say, Joe, you're nuts.
Well, give me an example.
Oh, now you're just asking tough questions. I thought I was the
Yeah.
one.
I'm just having a tough time wrapping myself around the context there.
So okay, so the I hate using this example. You put me on the spot. I should have came prepared, but I'll use this to start, and I'm going to do my best to give a better example. Let's take the iPhone for example. Okay, nobody told Steve Jobs to go start building iTunes in this platform and to start making deals with record companies to ultimately build what became the iPhone. Right? He just kind of he kind of thought like he saw ahead in the future. He didn't really have much proof. He just said, listen, this is what I see things as going. This is the way I see things going, and this is what I want to build to make that happen. And he did, and he ended up being right, I guess. Um, is that an example that will
No,
suffice? No.
that's
Yeah,
not. And
Ralph, you're
here's why.
tough.
That's not faith. That's hard work. There's a big difference. Steve Jobs, and he's iconic to me, professionally and personally. But at the end of the day, he was a human being, and he accomplished the things he was able to accomplish because he was smart, because he was educated, but mostly because he did a lot of work, and he demanded that people around him do the same. So there was a lot of trial and error. There were a lot of failures. There were a lot of things that went wrong, as is the case with any technology or business. But ultimately, they were able to achieve what they achieved because they enacted the labor to do these things. For every Steve Jobs, there are 100 other entrepreneurs who worked just as hard but didn't succeed. So that's not faith. That's just prudent behavior, as far as I'm concerned.
Maybe faith is the wrong word. I guess of the proof, you can only have so much proof of something, and then you kind of have to take that proof in different pieces and corners and put it together,
Mhm.
and then kind of make your assumptions and set your direction from there. Maybe it's not necessarily faith per se. I guess maybe that's the word I'm kind of overlaying on top of it. And I could be just making a tricky way to backpedal myself out of this corner, but I'm the host, so who knows? Does that make any sense, or am I still speaking nonsense to you?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if we peel back a little bit of the layers, and I don't want to speak heresy here, but
Oh, go by
making
me. Go ahead, by all means.
creating the iPhone is really just an evolution of the phone. Creating the iPod was really just an evolution of uh, evolving the way that we consume music. I mean, when we look at the totality of our society, things happen in increments. Sometimes there are large leaps, but even in those large leaps, when you look at them stand back, it's kind of incremental. And again, a lot of it doesn't necessarily happen on faith. If you look at the past 50 or so years, we went from not having the combustible engine to landing a man on the moon. That happened in a very, very compressed amount of time, but there was a lot of work that went into that. And even though the idea of let's go to space was this kind of weird, crazy idea, it still required a lot of steps to get there. And just hoping and wishing and having faith that it's going to happen, that wasn't good enough to make that jump. And by the way, when I'm using the word faith, I'm not paralleling to religion. I hope that's clear. I'm not saying that this is what religion is like. I'm just saying that I'm using the word faith in a kind of technological slash uh, strategic, tactical way, not in a religious context.
Well, the Hangout hasn't been burnt in effigy yet, so I think we're okay. I think people haven't
Good.
made a
Fingers
connection. So,
crossed. Fingers crossed.
yes, we can only hope that that continues to stay that way. Um, all right. Well, I think we've come pretty close to beating the dead horse, and I will maybe have to raise my white flag, as I did not come prepared for such a debate, and you sir, are a masterful on the spotter debater.
Thank you,
Um,
sir.
and getting back closer to, I mean, I think maybe more importantly, we've kind of, you can tell me if I'm wrong, maybe that being yourself is a little bit kind of to the core of this argument of faith versus fact, of maybe just understanding who you are, and not just taking it on faith that you need to be the person that people expect you to be.
Yeah, I mean, you have to know who your audience is, and you have to talk to them in a way that gives them value. But that doesn't necessarily mean be someone else. The idea of social media and all of the various technologies and platforms that are available, there is this idea that somehow this is new and that we need to kind of evolve how we're doing things. Talking to someone on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus is no different than sitting across the table from them. Whatever conversation you're going to have with someone across the table, have it online. I'll give you a quick story, if I may. Do we have a couple minutes?
You have all the time you want, Ralph.
All right. So I was on the Oscars. I'm a big movie fan. During the Oscars, I went online and I was kind of live, discussing while the Oscars were playing. And someone that I know on Facebook said, um, I wish I could mute Ralph. And she said it tongue in cheek. She was having fun with it. But here's the interesting part of that. In that thread, there were two people who are in the social media industry and who both have convey this idea of be yourself online. And here's what the first person said. I hate when my Facebook friends think they're on Twitter. That's the first person. The second person said, tell them to get to Twitter and get off Facebook. Now, here's the double message. Message one, be yourself. That's what I was doing. I was being myself. I was talking about the Oscars. Then the second message is, oh, well, no, only talk the way you're supposed to talk on Facebook, and then talk different on Twitter, and then talk different on Pinterest, and then talk different on Google+. That's not being yourself. That's following some weird guideline blueprint that doesn't make sense to me. Which goes back to what I said before, which is when people say be yourself, what they're really saying is talk to me the way I want to be talked to. Give me the messages that I want to hear. Package those messages in the way that I want to consume them. That's not being yourself. Being yourself is just saying what's on your mind. And I understand that there's a technology side to this. There's limitations in terms of the message length on Twitter. I get that. But I find that most people that say be yourself, they don't really mean that, and that's evident in my conversation. So I didn't let that stop me. And what I would suggest to you and your audience is don't let the people who are telling you that you're not talking the way that they want you to talk, don't let that stop you. Be yourself. As Carolyn said in her article on Web Search Social a couple days ago, be good. Be a good person. Run a good business. Offer a good, honorable, ethical product or service, and just be you.
I would say most people that are listening to you tell them that right now are saying to themselves, that's great, Ralph, but there's a sense of dread or worry about what is lost when they do those sorts of things. Is it actually a loss? What are they losing if they are?
Well, look, you can buffer your own self. You don't have to go on and talk about highly sensitive things. You don't have to talk about being yourself. Isn't about opening up everything about yourself. If you were sitting at home with someone that you were very, very good friends with, your best friend or a spouse, you would have a conversation with them. But if you were in a craft brew pub with a business acquaintance that you were, friendly with, you would have a different conversation with them. So just do that. Online, have the conversation that you're willing to have publicly as yourself. It doesn't have to be any more intimate than you want it to be. You don't have to reveal any information about yourself that you don't want to. But at the end of the day, and again, to take a step back, I do want to say that my mindset is kind of fine-tuned to talk about this from the entrepreneurial side, from the small business side, from the solopreneur side, because those people are trying to engage with an audience and trying to convert them into leads and business. And I think that they can do that by exposing a little bit of their humanity, but they don't have to expose everything about themselves. They don't have to put everything out there. They can draw lines between what they want to say and what they don't want to say, but they can still be themselves.
I think we're going to wrap it up with this question right here from Rob Jacobson. I'm not sure I'm going to get all of it. Let's see here. I'm going to read this. Some of this cut off here. It says, Ralph and Joey, in a business as a financial services, we provide solutions for real problems, yet the transactions from the client's perspective is such an emotional transaction. So I find I have to use a balance between catering to their emotions versus the facts/truths of a solution to their problems. Is this just being me? Or is this? I'm assuming is he thinking that is this just a question that he's struggling with himself? Does that make any sense to you?
No, not at all. I think he makes a lot of sense. Going back to what I said before, and this is kind of parallel to this, which is that it's not his job, and I know people hate when I say this, but it's not his job to make them happy. It's his job to make sure that they are financially protected. I don't know what he does. He says something about finance, but whatever it is that he does, he needs to make sure he needs to make sure that they are protected, that they are following the laws, that there aren't tax or FINRA or implications that would otherwise put them in harm either now or in the future. That's his responsibility, and the best way that he figures he can do that, he should do that. And the emotional side of it, sometimes that plays in, but I would contend that it's not his job to make them happy. It's his job to protect them financially.
And at the end of the day, this whole being yourself thing, I mean, and what I like to do, especially within my work in insurance too, because there's a lot of, we want to, tiptoe around certain clients or, just tell them certain things in a certain way. It's like, I'm going to, and I've said in a lot of our marketing and a lot of my conversations, I'm going to tell you something that you don't like and you need to be okay with that.
Right.
Is that ultimately, at the end of the day, what it's all about?
Yeah. I mean, that's an honest conversation. Are you married?
I am, sir. Yes, guilty.
All right. So you've had conversations, I'm sure, with your wife where you know that the thing you're going to tell her is not necessarily going to make her happy, but you know that the end result of that, maybe not the short-term result of that, but the long-term result of that is going to be a net positive. It's the same thing in doing business. Relationships, there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. There's no such thing as a relationship where you have no fights, no quarrels, no disagreements. We have a client that we've had for 10 years. We talked about this on our podcast. We had a huge fight with them. Didn't talk, I mean, the whole 9 yards for about a week. And then, then it blew over. We talked about it and everything was fine. But we had to tell them hard truths, and the reverse is true too. Sometimes they had to tell us hard truths. That's what makes a relationship, not that you're always nice to each other. If you're always nice to each other, chances are that's not really a good, sustainable relationship.
All right, fantastic. I think we're going to leave it right there off because I can't do any better. You might be able to, but we'll just leave that up for the mystery. We'll leave people hanging. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Where can people find out more about all things Ralph M. Rivera?
So you can find me pretty much on any social platform, facebook.com/Ralph M. Rivera, twitter.com/Ralph M. Rivera. But the best place is to go to websearchsocial.com, and our podcast is at websearchsocial.com/podcast. We'd love for everybody to come in and listen to our show and give us an honest rating and a review and tell us what you think. And maybe if you need help with your marketing, we can give you a hand with that as well.
I can personally vouch for the show. I give out fake awards on a pretty weekly basis, and I would probably give you the award for best show opening of any podcast that I listen to.
Thank you. That's very flattering.
It's great because it comes back to you being you, and that's I think ultimately where I landed on this topic was it's like, listen, I'm just going to open the show the way I want. It's going to be a little weird, quirky, and maybe make you feel a little uncomfortable sometimes, and that's usually a pretty good recipe.
Thank you.
Ralph, I appreciate you taking the time for being here. If you guys want to hear, we haven't done it yet because, like I said, we were delayed with some technical difficulties, but Ralph is going to tell me right now what fearless question he's most afraid to ask himself in his own life or business. After we get off of this thing, it's going to be up on Fearlessly Questioning in a couple hours. But if you want to go ahead and subscribe to that along with the answers from all of our previous guests, fearlesslyquestioning.com is where you can go ahead and do that. And, of course, like Ralph said, ratings and reviews are always welcome too if you want to tell us if we're doing a good job for you. But Ralph, appreciate you for being here. It was a lot of fun, And I'm gonna have to schedule the rematch because I feel like I got shown
I
up on
love
my
it.
show, and we're gonna need to come prepared for a little bit
Bring it on. I'll start
more
lifting weights today.
more meaty debate. Well, all right, sir. It is set. It's like a boxing thing. We don't know when, but there will be a showdown sometime.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
All right, Ralph. Appreciate it. We're gonna get out of here. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy, everybody.
Thank you.